My sister called 20 minutes before my first date in 2 years. I'm dropping off all 3 kids. Figure it out. I said no. By midnight, my whole family called me disgusting. I just smiled and made one post. By morning, Mom was begging me to take it down. My name's Shane, I'm 29, and I want to tell you about the night my sister tried to use me as a free babysitter and accidentally detonated her own reputation in the process. But before we get to the fireworks, let me give you some background, because this thing didn't happen in a vacuum. This was years of entitlement finally meeting a wall, and that wall happened to be me on the one night I actually had plans. So here's the deal. I'm the youngest of 3. My older sister Jolene is 34, and my brother Travis is 32. Growing up, Jolene was the golden child. Not in a subtle way either. In the loud, obvious, everyone in the family knows it way. She was a cheerleader, homecoming queen, the one who got the car on her 16th birthday while Travis and I split rides in our mom's minivan until we could afford our own. Our mom, Claire, basically treated Jolene like she was made of porcelain and the rest of us were the bubble wrap she came packed in. Now don't get me wrong, I love my mom. She's not a monster, but she has this blind spot when it comes to Jolene that's roughly the size of a billboard. Jolene can do no wrong. Jolene's problems are always someone else's fault. Jolene's needs come before everyone else's, and if you push back on that, you're the selfish one. That dynamic has been the background noise of my entire life, and honestly, I got used to it. You learn to work around it. You learn to just nod and keep your head down and build your own life separately, which is exactly what I did. After high school, I went to trade school, became an electrician, and slowly built up a decent career. I bought a small house about 40 minutes from my mom's place, got a dog named Captain who is objectively the best dog on the planet, and settled into a quiet, stable life. Not glamorous, but mine. I liked it. I was proud of it. The one area where things weren't exactly thriving was my dating life. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm some kind of misunderstood romantic hero. The truth is, I went through a rough breakup about 2.5 years ago. Her name was Paige. We'd been together for 3 years, and she left me for a guy she met at a CrossFit gym. Classic, right? The whole thing gutted me. I won't bore you with the details, but I basically spent the next 1.5 years working, coming home, eating dinner with Captain, and watching way too many true crime documentaries. Not exactly a highlight reel. But then, about 2 months before this whole mess went down, something happened. I met someone. Her name was Qley. She was a vet tech at the clinic where I took Captain for his checkup, and she laughed at my dumb joke about Captain needing a promotion, and I swear something clicked. We talked for like 20 minutes in the lobby while Captain tried to eat a pamphlet about heartworm prevention, and before I left, she gave me her number. Wrote it on the back of a business card. I felt like I was 17 again. We texted back and forth for weeks. Easy, natural conversations. She was funny and sharp, and she actually seemed interested in me, which after Paige, felt like finding water in a desert. Eventually I asked her out. Dinner at this Italian place downtown called Rosselli's. Nothing crazy, just a nice spot. She said yes. I made the reservation for Saturday night at 7:30. Now here's where you need to understand something about Jolene. She has 3 kids. Brody is 7, Lila is 5, and the baby, Mason, is 18 months. Her husband, Derek, is a long-haul trucker, so he's gone a lot. And look, I get it. Being a mom of 3 with a husband who's on the road is hard. I'm not heartless. I've helped out plenty of times. I've watched the kids on weeknights so she could go to her book club. I've picked Brody up from soccer practice. I've done grocery runs for her when she was overwhelmed. I'm not some deadbeat uncle who shows up at Christmas with a gift card and disappears. I've been there. But here's the thing. With Jolene, helping out isn't a favor. It's an expectation. She doesn't ask. She tells. And if you say no, she doesn't just get disappointed. She gets offended. Like you've personally insulted her by having your own life. And then she calls mom, and mom calls you. And suddenly you're the villain in a story you didn't even know was being written. So it's Saturday. The Saturday. My first date in 2 years. I've showered, trimmed my beard, put on a shirt that doesn't have a logo on it, which for me is basically black tie. I'm standing in my bathroom mirror, giving myself a pep talk that would make a high school football coach proud. Something along the lines of, "You're a grown man. You've rewired entire buildings. You can sit across from a pretty woman and eat pasta without embarrassing yourself." Captain was sitting behind me looking deeply unimpressed, which honestly was fair. My reservation was at 7:30. At 7:10, my phone rang. Jolene. I almost didn't answer. Something in my gut told me not to. But I did, because I'm an idiot, and because 29 years of family conditioning is hard to shake. Hey, Shane, I need a huge favor. Derek got called out for an extra run, and I just got invited to Meredith's birthday thing downtown. I'm dropping all 3 kids off at your place. I'll be there in like 20 minutes. Not asking, telling. On a Saturday night. With 20 minutes notice. I took a breath. Jolene, I can't tonight. I have plans. There was a pause. The kind of pause that, if you've ever dealt with someone who isn't used to hearing the word no, you know exactly what it sounds like. It's the silence before the storm. Plans? What plans? You never have plans. And honestly, that one stung. Not because it was mean, but because it was true enough to hurt. I didn't have plans most Saturdays. But I had plans tonight. Important ones. The first one's in a very long time. I have a date, actually. Dinner reservation at 7:30. I'm literally about to walk out the door. She laughed. Not a happy laugh. That short, dismissive laugh that people do when they think what you've said is inconvenient and therefore ridiculous. Shane, come on. I'm sure she'll understand. Just reschedule. I really need this. Meredith's thing is a big deal, and I already told her I'm coming. Then you should have lined up a sitter before you told her that. Another pause. Longer this time. I could practically hear the gears turning, the mental shift from casual demand to full-blown guilt offensive. Are you seriously telling me you're choosing some random girl over your own nephews and niece? Over family. I'm telling you I have plans, and you gave me 20 minutes notice. That's not how this works, Jolene. She hung up on me. Just like that. No goodbye, no negotiation, just the click of someone who fully expected to get her way and couldn't process the alternative. I stood there for a second, phone in hand, heart pounding, and then I looked at Captain and said, that went well. I grabbed my keys and walked out the door. Drove to Rosselli's. Met Qley. And honestly, it was one of the best nights I'd had in years. She ordered the mushroom risotto. I got the chicken parm. We split a tiramisu, and she told me about the time a parrot at the clinic learned to say code blue and caused a full evacuation of the waiting room. I laughed so hard I almost choked on bread. It was easy. It was warm. It was everything I'd been missing. But the whole time, my phone was lighting up in my pocket. I'd put it on silent, but every time I shifted in my chair, I could feel it buzzing. I didn't look. Not once. Whatever was happening on that phone could wait. Tonight was mine. It couldn't wait forever, though. And when I finally checked it in my car after dropping Qley off at her apartment, my stomach dropped. 23 missed calls, 14 texts, and a voicemail from my mother that started with, Shane Michael, I am so disappointed in you. Which if you've ever had a Southern mom, you know that's basically the verbal equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane making landfall. Something had gone very, very sideways. And I was apparently the bad guy. I sat in my car outside Qley's apartment complex and scrolled through the damage. The texts from Jolene were exactly what you'd expect. Escalating fury wrapped in victimhood. The first few were annoyed. Seriously, Shane? And thanks for nothing. Then they shifted into dramatic. I guess I know where I stand with you. And finally, the nuclear option. I had to cancel on Meredith because of you. Mom agrees you're being incredibly selfish. Oh, there it was. She'd called Mom. The texts from my mother were worse because they were calmer. Claire doesn't yell. She guilt trips with the precision of a surgeon. Your sister needed you tonight, and you chose not to be there. I raised you better than that. Family comes first, always. I'm very hurt by your behavior. Then the voicemail, which was 3 minutes of the same thing, but with a trembling voice that I'm about 90% sure was performative and 10% genuine disappointment. Then came the text from Travis. My brother, the one person I thought might be on my side. Hey man, just got off the phone with Mom. She's really upset. Jolene's saying you blew her off to go on a date? Maybe just apologize and move on. Not worth the drama. Classic Travis. Not taking a side, which in my family means taking Jolene's side by default. I sat there for a long time. The car was off, the parking lot was quiet, and I could feel that old familiar weight settling onto my chest. The one I've carried my whole life. The feeling of being the one who's always wrong, even when you know you're right. The one who's supposed to bend so everyone else can stay comfortable. But something was different this time. Maybe it was the date. Maybe it was the fact that for the first time in 2 years I'd felt like a person and not just the family utility player. Maybe it was hearing Qley laugh and realizing that I deserved to have that in my life. and that Jolene's inability to plan didn't get to take it from me. Whatever it was, I didn't apologize. I typed back one text to my mom. I had plans tonight. Jolene didn't ask, she told. I said no. That's not selfish, that's a boundary. Good night, Mom. Then I turned my phone off and drove home. Sunday morning, I turned it back on. 16 more messages. A group chat I didn't even know existed, which is always a fun thing to discover, had apparently been the staging ground for a full family tribunal while I was asleep. My Aunt Denise, my cousin Rachel, even my grandmother had weighed in. The consensus, according to the group chat, was that I was cold and heartless, and that poor Jolene was drowning with 3 kids, and I couldn't even sacrifice one evening to help. Nobody mentioned that it was my first date in 2 years. Nobody mentioned that she gave me 20 minutes notice. Nobody asked for my side. The verdict was in before the defense even got to speak. I called Travis. He picked up on the second ring and immediately sounded like a hostage negotiator. Hey, just relax, okay? I know you're upset. I'm not upset, Travis. I'm annoyed. She called the whole family on me because I had a date. I know. But you know how Jolene gets. She was embarrassed about canceling on her friend, and she took it out on you. Just call her, say you're sorry, and it'll blow over. Why should I be sorry? She didn't ask me. She told me she was dropping her kids off. I had plans. Since when do I not get to have plans? Travis sighed. That long, tired sigh he does when he doesn't want to deal with something. Shane, I hear you. But is this really the hill you want to die on? Just smooth it over. Travis, this isn't one hill. This is 20 years of hills. She's been pulling this crap since we were kids, and everyone just lets her because it's easier. I'm done being the path of least resistance. He went quiet. Then, all right, man. Your call. Just don't expect Mom to see it that way. I didn't. I knew exactly how Mom would see it, because she always sees it the same way. Jolene is struggling. Jolene needs help. Jolene has 3 kids. And if you don't drop everything for Jolene, you're the problem. It's been this way since we were teenagers. Jolene's life was a series of choices that everyone else had to subsidize, and God help you if you pointed that out. Monday came and I went to work. Tried to focus on a rewiring job at a restaurant downtown, but my phone kept buzzing. Mom called twice. The first voicemail was soft and pleading. The second had shifted tone. Shane, this silent treatment is childish. You're punishing your sister for asking for help. That's not who I raised. Asking for help. That's what they were calling it. She literally said, I'm dropping off all 3 kids. Figure it out. That's not asking. That's a command. That evening, I was sitting on my couch, Captain sprawled across my lap, when my phone buzzed again. This time it was Jolene. A long text. And this one, I have to admit, hit different. Not because it was kind, but because it was so perfectly manipulative that it almost worked. Shane, I don't know what I did to make you hate me so much. I'm doing my best with 3 kids and a husband who's gone half the time. I thought I could count on my own brother, but I guess I was wrong. Mom's been crying all day because of what you said to her. I hope your date was worth tearing this family apart. I read it 3 times. The first time, I felt guilt. The second time, I felt anger. The third time, I felt something else entirely. Clarity. Because that text was a masterpiece of manipulation. She didn't apologize. She didn't acknowledge that she demanded, not asked. She framed herself as the victim, me as the aggressor, and threw in Mom's been crying as the cherry on top. It was textbook, and it had always worked before. Every single time, I'd feel guilty. I'd call, I'd apologize for something I didn't do, and the machine would reset. Not this time. I didn't respond. I put my phone on the kitchen counter, made myself a sandwich, and watched a documentary about deep-sea creatures with Captain. At one point they showed this fish that lives at the bottom of the ocean, miles below the surface, in total darkness, and I thought, yeah, buddy, I know exactly how you feel. By Wednesday, the situation had escalated beyond what I thought was possible for a missed babysitting request. My cousin Rachel had posted something vague on social media about some people only caring about themselves. My Aunt Denise sent me a lecture about how she'd always thought I was the considerate one. My grandmother, who is 81 and uses her phone like it's a live grenade, managed to send me a text that just said, "Call you our sister, Grandma." And then Thursday happened. I got home from work, tired, covered in drywall dust, and found my mother's car in my driveway. She was sitting on my porch steps with her purse on her lap and her reading glasses on top of her head, which is her, business look. "We need to talk," she said as I walked up. "About what?" I already knew about what. About this mess with Jolene. "Shane, she is your sister. She was having a hard night. All she needed was a few hours of help, and you said no because of a date." "A date, Shane?" I unlocked my front door, and Captain came barreling out to greet her, because Captain loves everyone and has no concept of family politics. Mom petted him, which I took as a sign that she wasn't fully in scorched earth mode yet. Mom, she didn't ask. She told me 20 minutes before she was going to show up. I had plans. Plans can be changed. Family can't. Mom, it was my first date in 2 years. 2 years. Do you know that? Do you even know what my life has been like since Paige left? She looked at me, and for a second, just a second, I thought I saw something shift. Like maybe she was hearing me. Really hearing me. But then it passed. "I know it's been hard for you, sweetheart. But Jolene has 3 little ones, and she needed you. She needed a babysitter. That's not the same as needing me. She could have called a sitter. She could have called Travis. She could have planned ahead. But she didn't, because she knows she can just dump it on me, and everyone will make me feel guilty if I say no. And here you are, on my porch, proving her right." Mom stood up. Her lips were pressed into that thin line that means the conversation is over, not because it's resolved, but because she's decided she's right and further discussion is unnecessary. "I'm disappointed in you, Shane. I really am." She walked to her car, got in, and drove away. I stood on my porch and watched her taillights disappear, and I won't lie to you, it hurt. It hurt a lot. Not because I thought I was wrong. Because I knew I was right, and it didn't matter. In my family, being right has never mattered. The only thing that matters is keeping Jolene happy. I went inside, sat on the floor with Captain, and stared at the ceiling for a very long time. The next couple of weeks were rough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat that. When your whole family decides you're the bad guy, it doesn't matter how solid your reasoning is. It wears on you. Every time my phone buzzed, I tensed up. Every time I drove past my mom's neighborhood, I felt this weird mix of anger and sadness that sat in my chest like a brick. I stopped going to Sunday dinners. Not because anyone told me not to come, but because I knew what it would be. Jolene playing the wounded gazelle, Mom giving me the cold shoulder, Travis avoiding eye contact, and talking about football like that would somehow fix everything. The worst part was the isolation. I've never had a huge social circle. A few buddies from work, some guys I play basketball with on Thursday nights. Captain. That was my world. And without the family stuff, the world felt smaller. There were nights I sat on my couch and wondered if I'd made a mistake. If saying no to Jolene on that one Saturday night was really worth losing my entire family over. But here's the thing about hitting a wall. Sometimes you realize the wall was always there. You were just too busy running into it to notice. And once you stop, once you actually step back and look at the thing, you see it for what it is. My family hadn't turned on me because of one Saturday night. They turned on me because I broke the pattern. I was the reliable one, the easy one, the one who always said yes. And the moment I didn't, the whole system glitched. That wasn't my problem. That was theirs. So I made a decision. Instead of sitting around feeling sorry for myself, I was going to invest in the life I actually had. The one I'd been building quietly for years while everyone was focused on Jolene. First thing I did was call Qley. We'd been texting since the date, and she'd been patient about the fact that I was clearly distracted. I told her the truth. Not the whole saga, but enough. That my sister and I were having issues, that my family was being difficult, and that I was sorry if I'd been distant. She listened, and then she said something that stuck with me. "Shane, you don't owe anyone an apology for having boundaries. The people who love you will respect that. The ones who don't aren't actually loving you. They're using you." That woman had more wisdom in one sentence than my family had shown in 29 years. We went on a second date that weekend. Bowling. She beat me by 40 points and was not remotely gracious about it, which I found weirdly attractive. Then a third date. Then a fourth. Within a month, it was pretty clear that Qley wasn't just a date. She was becoming something real. Something I'd been terrified to hope for. Meanwhile, at work, things started clicking too. My boss, a guy named Greg, had been hinting for a while that he wanted me to take on more responsibility. Supervising jobs, managing crews, handling client relationships. I'd always hesitated because, honestly, I didn't think I was that guy. But something about the whole family situation had shaken something loose in me. I was tired of being the person everyone else decided I was. I wanted to decide for myself. So I said yes. Took on a supervisor role. It came with a raise and a company truck, which Captain was very excited about because it had more room for him to spread out on the passenger seat. I started managing a crew of 4 guys on commercial projects, and turns out I was actually good at it. Not because I was some natural-born leader, but because I knew what it felt like to be overlooked, and I made sure nobody on my crew felt that way. I communicated clearly, I listened, I didn't play favorites. Funny how those things work when you've spent your whole life watching someone do the opposite. Around the same time, my buddy Nate from Basketball League invited me to start working out with him in the mornings. Nothing extreme, just 3 days a week at this gym near my house. I'd never been a fitness guy, but I showed up, and it helped. Not just physically, but mentally. There's something about lifting heavy things and putting them down that makes your problems feel lighter. Terrible pun, I know, but it's true. So there I was. New relationship, new role at work, new routine, new energy. I was sleeping better, eating better, laughing more. Captain was getting longer walks and extra treats, which he felt he deserved regardless of my personal growth, but I appreciated his support nonetheless. About 6 weeks after the Saturday night incident, Travis called me. It was late, almost 10 on a Tuesday, and I almost didn't pick up. But Travis doesn't call late unless something's actually going on. Hey, he said. How are you? I'm good, actually. What's up? He paused. I just wanted to check in. We haven't really talked since everything happened. Yeah, I noticed. Another pause. Look, I know I didn't exactly have your back, and I'm not going to make excuses. I just hate conflict, man. I always have. It's easier to just tell everyone to apologize and move on. Easier for you, I said. Not for me. I know that now. He cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I think you were right. About Jolene. About the whole thing. She's been pulling this stuff for years, and we all just let her because it's less hassle. That's not fair to you. I didn't say anything for a minute. Not because I was angry, but because I genuinely didn't expect it. Travis agreeing with me openly was roughly as likely as Captain learning to do my taxes. Thanks, Travis. That actually means a lot. Yeah, well, don't go getting all emotional on me. I called to tell you that, and also to tell you that Jolene's been spiraling a little. Derek's been gone even more than usual. The kids are a handful, and she's been leaning hard on Mom. Like, really hard. Mom's over there 4 or 5 days a week now. That sounds like Mom's choice. It is. But she's exhausted. And she's not going to say it because it's Jolene. But I can see it. We talked for a while longer. It was the best conversation I'd had with my brother in years, maybe ever. He told me he was proud of me for standing my ground, even though he hadn't been brave enough to say it at the time. I told him about Qley, and he said, "Dude, she sounds like a keeper. Don't screw it up." Very touching. Very Travis. After we hung up, I sat on my porch with Captain and looked at the stars. It was one of those rare, clear nights where you can actually see them, even with the neighborhood lights. And I thought about how weird life is. How the worst night of my family life had kicked off the best stretch of my personal life. How saying no to Jolene had somehow opened the door to saying yes to everything else. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I was sad about my mom, sure. I missed her. I missed her chicken pot pie and her laugh and the way she'd call me sweetheart when she wasn't disappointed in me, which admittedly hadn't been recently. But I couldn't go back to being the person who gave up everything to keep the peace. That version of me was gone, and I didn't want him back. What I didn't know, sitting on that porch, was that life was about to hand me something I never expected. Not revenge, exactly. More like an opportunity. The kind of opportunity that shows up wearing a trench coat and saying, "You're not going to believe this, but the universe owes you a favor." And it came from the most unlikely place imaginable, Jolene herself. About 2 months after the Saturday night disaster, I came home from work to find a notification on my phone from a social media app one barely use. Someone had tagged me in a post. I opened it up, and what I saw made me set my phone down, pick it up, read it again, set it down again, and then say out loud to Captain, "You're not going to believe this." Jolene had written a post. A long one. Public. Not in the family group chat. Not on her private page. Public. And it was about me. The post was one of those grateful for my village things that people write when they want sympathy disguised as gratitude. It started nice enough. She talked about how hard it is being a mom of 3, how Derek's job keeps him away, how she's doing her best. Fine. Relatable. But then she pivoted. She started talking about how some family members had turned their backs on her when she needed them most. How she'd asked for one small favor and been rejected and humiliated. How her own brother had chosen a stranger over his flesh and blood. She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. Everyone knew. The post had 47 likes and a bunch of comments. All supportive. All directed at poor, struggling Jolene. You deserve better. Family should always come first. Some people are so selfish. One person, some woman I didn't even know, wrote, "Cut him off, queen. You don't need that energy. Cut me off." Like I was the toxic one. Like I'd done something monstrous by going on a date. I'll be honest, my first reaction was rage. That hot, buzzing anger that starts in your chest and spreads to your fingertips. She'd taken our private family business and put it on the internet for sympathy points. She'd twisted the story, left out every detail that made her look bad, and painted me as some heartless jerk who abandoned his sister and her children. And people were eating it up. But then the rage settled into something colder, something more focused. Because as I read that post for the third time, I realized something. Jolene had made a mistake. A big one. She'd gone public. She'd put her version of events out there for the world to see. And her version had holes in it the size of a garage door. I called Travis. "Did you see it?" Yeah, I saw it." She left out everything. The 20 minutes notice, the demanding tone, the fact that she didn't ask, she told. She made it sound like I refused to help her while she was having a medical emergency or something. I know. It's classic Jolene. She controls the narrative. Not this time. Travis went quiet. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about telling the truth. The whole truth. Publicly. Shane, that's going to start a war." "The war already started, Travis." She fired the first shot. "I'm just going to fire back with actual facts." He took a long breath. "If you're going to do this, do it right. Don't be emotional. Don't be petty. Just lay out what actually happened. Let people draw their own conclusions." That was good advice, and I took it. But I didn't do it right away. I waited. Partly because I wanted to be strategic, and partly because I wanted to make sure I wasn't acting out of anger. I gave myself a full week to cool down. During that week, I did something I probably should have done years ago. I went back through my phone and pulled up every text conversation I'd had with Jolene over the past 3 years. What I found was staggering. Not because any individual text was shocking, but because when you see them all together, the pattern is undeniable. Dozens of texts where Jolene didn't ask for help, but demanded it. "I need you to pick up Brody at 4. I'm bringing the kids over Saturday. Make sure you have snacks. Can you come fix my garbage disposal? Derek's useless." Never a please. Rarely a thank you. And when I'd say I couldn't, or suggest an alternative, the response was always some variation of guilt. "Fine, I guess I'll just figure it out myself like I always do. Must be nice to not have responsibilities. I'll remember this." But the real gold was the text exchange from that Saturday night. The one where she said, "I'm dropping off all 3 kids. Figure it out." Where I politely said I had plans, and she laughed it off and told me to reschedule my date because she really needed this. Where she hung up on me. It was all there, time-stamped and unedited. I showed the texts to Qley that weekend. She read through them quietly, her expression shifting from surprise to something that looked a lot like controlled fury. "Shane," she said, "this woman has been treating you like an employee, not a brother." "I know. And your mom supports this?" "My mom doesn't see it. Or she doesn't want to see it." Qley set my phone down and looked at me. "You know what you have to do, right?" "Yeah. Just be honest. Don't attack her. Don't be mean. Just tell the truth. The truth is damning enough on its own." So I wrote it. Took me 3 drafts. The first was too angry. The second was too long. The third was right. Clean, calm, factual. I laid out exactly what happened that Saturday night. I included the timeline. I mentioned that it was my first date in 2 years, that she gave me 20 minutes notice, that she didn't ask but told, and that when I said no, she called our entire family and turned them against me before I even got home from dinner. I didn't editorialize. I didn't call her names. I didn't attack her parenting. I just told the truth, step by step, and then I ended with this. I love my sister. I love my family. But I'm not going to apologize for having a life of my own. I've helped Jolene more times than I can count, happily and without complaint. But the one time I said no, I was called selfish, heartless, and disgusting by people who never even asked for my side of the story. So here it is. My side. Make of it what you will. And then I did something that was either brilliant or insane. I attached screenshots. Not all of them. Just the key ones. The text where she said, "I'm dropping off all 3 kids. Figure it out." The one where she told me to reschedule my date because her friend's birthday party was a big deal. The one where she said, "I hope your date was worth tearing this family apart." And for good measure, a few older ones showing the pattern. The demands, the guilt trips, the entitlement. I sat on the post for 2 full days. Reread it probably 50 times. Asked myself if I was sure. Asked Qley. Asked Travis, who said, "If you post that, everything changes." I said good. On a Thursday night, at around 9 o'clock, I posted it. Set it to public. Tagged nobody. Didn't need to. Everyone who needed to see it would see it. Then I turned off my phone, made a cup of coffee, sat on my couch with Captain, and waited for the sun to come up. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I was worried, but because there's something surreal about knowing you've just changed the entire dynamic of your family with one post. Like dropping a stone into a pond and watching the ripples spread out in every direction. You can't take it back. You can't control where the ripples go. All you can do is sit on the shore and watch. By midnight, I couldn't resist anymore. I turned my phone back on, and what I saw made me sit straight up on the couch so fast that Captain startled and fell off the cushion. The post had exploded. Over 200 reactions. Dozens of comments. And the tone was nothing like what I expected. It wasn't divided. It wasn't a 50-50 split. It was almost unanimously in my favor. People were furious. Not at me. At Jolene. And not just strangers. Family. People I hadn't talked to in years. Friends of friends. Even some of Jolene's own friends. The screenshots had done what my words alone never could. They showed the truth in black and white, with timestamps, with no room for interpretation or spin. My phone started buzzing with messages. From my Aunt Denise. "Shane, I had no idea. I'm so sorry I judged you." From my cousin Rachel, who had posted that vague subtweet about family a few weeks earlier. "Oh my God, I feel terrible." She told us a completely different story. From people I barely knew, telling me I was brave, telling me they'd been in similar situations, telling me they were proud of me. And then, at 12:17 in the morning, a text from my mother. 8 words. "Shane, please take that post down. Call me." I smiled, finished my coffee, and went to bed. I woke up the next morning to Captain licking my face, which is his version of an alarm clock and roughly as pleasant as it sounds. My phone was on the nightstand, and I could see even from the lock screen that the notifications had piled up overnight like snow in a blizzard. I made coffee first. Whatever was on that phone could wait until I was caffeinated. When I finally sat down and opened it up, the post had crossed 400 reactions. The comments section had turned into a full-blown town hall meeting. People I hadn't spoken to since high school were weighing in. Co-workers, neighbors. There was even a comment from a woman named Diane who apparently went to book club with Jolene, and she wrote something along the lines of, "This tracks." She talks about Shane like he's her personal assistant, not her brother. I always thought it was weird. That one had 62 likes on its own, but the messages that mattered most were the private ones. My Aunt Denise had sent a long message at 3 in the morning, which meant she'd been up thinking about it. She apologized for the lecture she'd given me, said she felt manipulated, and admitted that Jolene had called her crying that Saturday night and told her I'd screamed at her and slammed the door in her face. Which, for the record, never happened. I wasn't even home when she called. I was putting on a nice shirt and trying to remember how to be a normal human on a date. My cousin Rachel had sent a voice message. I played it on speaker while Captain judged me from the kitchen doorway. She was crying a little, which made me feel bad, but what she said was important. "Shane, I'm so sorry." She called me that night and said you cussed her out and refused to help even though she was having a panic attack. I believed her. I shouldn't have. I should have called you first. I'm really, really sorry. A panic attack. Jolene had told people she was having a panic attack. That was new. The story had apparently evolved every time she told it, like a game of telephone where the message gets worse at every stop. Then there was my mom. She'd called 4 times between 6 and 8 in the morning. The first 3 voicemails escalated from controlled to frantic, demanding I take the post down. But the 4th, left at 7:52, was different. Her voice was smaller. Tired. "Shane, I need to talk to you. Not about taking it down. Just to talk. Please call me. So I called her. She picked up on the first ring. Hi, Mom. Shane. Long pause. I read your post. All of it. Okay. I saw the screenshots. Okay. Another pause. I could hear her breathing. When she spoke again, her voice cracked, and this time I didn't think it was performative. Did she really say that? Figure it out? Yeah, Mom. She really said that. And you really hadn't been on a date in 2 years? 2 years and 3 months, actually. But who's counting? She made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. I didn't know. I didn't know it had been that long. You never told me. You never asked. That one landed. I could hear it in the silence. Not the angry silence of someone who thinks they're right. The heavy silence of someone who just realized they might be wrong. Shane, I owe you an apology. Not just for that night. For a lot of things. I have been so focused on helping Jolene that I forgot to pay attention to you. That's not okay. That's never been okay. I won't lie. I got a little choked up. Not dramatically. I just had to clear my throat and blink a few times and pretend I was looking at something very interesting on the wall. Captain seemed to understand, because he came over and sat on my foot, which is his way of saying, I'm here for you, but also I'd like breakfast. Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. I talked to Jolene this morning. How'd that go? About as well as you'd expect. She's upset. She says you humiliated her. I told the truth. If the truth is humiliating, that's something she needs to sit with. Mom sighed. I know that now. But she's my daughter, Shane. I can't just turn that off. Nobody's asking you to turn it off, Mom. I'm asking you to turn it on for me too. That one sat between us for a long time. When she spoke again, she said, You're right. Come over for dinner this weekend. Just you and me. No Jolene, no drama. I'll make chicken pot pie. Can I bring someone? The girl from the date? Her name's Qley. Bring Qley. I smiled. First real smile in weeks directed at anything family related. Okay. Saturday. Now, here's what happened with Jolene. She didn't call me. Not that day. Not the next day. Not for almost 2 weeks. From what Travis told me, she was embarrassed. Legitimately, deeply embarrassed. The post hadn't just shown my side of the story. It had shown a pattern. And the people in her life weren't rallying around her this time. They were reading the screenshots and going quiet. A few reached out to me privately to say they'd noticed the same behavior, but never felt comfortable saying anything. 2 weeks after the post, Jolene finally texted me. It was short. Can we talk? In person? I said yes. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She looked tired. Not the performative tired she sometimes puts on for sympathy. Actually tired. Like she hadn't been sleeping. She sat down, wrapped both hands around her coffee cup, and didn't look at me for about 30 seconds. Then she said, I'm sorry. I waited. I've learned that the first, I'm sorry, is usually a test balloon. The real apology, if it comes at all, is the one that follows. I'm sorry for the way I treated you that night. And not just that night. For a long time. I've been thinking about it, and I think I got so used to you always being there that I stopped seeing it as a choice you were making. I just expected it. And when you said no, I panicked, and instead of dealing with it like an adult, I turned it into a war. That was wrong. She looked up at me. Her eyes were red. I also lied. To Mom, to Denise, to Rachel. I told them you yelled at me. You didn't. I told them I was having a panic attack. I wasn't. I was angry and embarrassed, and I wanted people on my side. So I made the story bigger. That was really, really wrong, and I'm sorry. I sat there for a minute, just processing. Because here's the thing about apologies from people who never apologize. They're disorienting. Your whole body is braced for the fight, and instead you get a white flag, and you don't quite know what to do with your hands. Thank you, I said. That means a lot, Jolene. It really does. Are you going to take the post down? Are you going to correct the record with the people you lied to? She winced, but she nodded. I already called Aunt Denise. I'm calling Rachel today. Then yeah, I'll take it down. And I did. That night. The post had served its purpose. It was never about humiliating her. It was about being heard. For the first time in my life, I'd been heard. That was about 5 months ago. Things aren't perfect. They never will be. Jolene and I aren't best friends. We probably never will be. But we're better. She asks now instead of telling. She says thank you. She started seeing a therapist, which Travis told me about in a tone of voice that suggested he might need one too. Mom has been making more of an effort with me, and she absolutely adores Qley, which I predicted because Qley is objectively adorable, and also she brought my mom flowers the first time they met, which is basically the cheat code for Southern mothers. Qley and I are still together, still going strong. She moved in about 2 months ago, and Captain is thrilled because she gives better belly rubs than I do, which I pretend to be offended by, but secretly, I'm just grateful he's happy. I got another promotion at work. Crew lead on a major hospital renovation project. Greg told me I'm the best thing that happened to this company since we stopped buying the cheap coffee, which is the highest compliment he's ever given anyone. I still think about that Saturday night sometimes. I was standing in my bathroom, nervous about a first date, and my sister called and tried to take it from me. If I'd said yes, if I'd folded like I always had, I'd still be the family pushover, still single, still eating dinner alone with Captain every night. Instead, I said no. 1 word, 2 letters. And it changed everything. So if you're reading this and you're in a similar spot, if you're the one your family always leans on because you're reliable, and they've confused reliable with available, and available with obligated, let me tell you something. You're allowed to have plans. You're allowed to go on the date. You're allowed to say no. And if the people in your life can't handle that, the problem isn't your no. The problem is that they never learn to hear it. As for me, I'm sitting on my porch right now. Captain's asleep at my feet. Qley's inside making some kind of smoothie that involves kale and optimism. The sun's going down, and my phone is quiet. And for the first time in a very long time, that quiet doesn't feel like loneliness. It feels like peace.